this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. For all gathered here, and this far away, for this time we share, with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. For all gathered here, and this far away, for this time we share, with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
Well, good morning and welcome to the Boulder Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I love hearing the voices of our singers in that song and seeing those how it was so beautifully put together with video. So thank you to Tad and everyone who came together for that. I'm the Reverend Lydia Ferrante Roseberry, and I am the minister of this beautiful congregation. Today I am joined by Service Associate Paul Brindison, Intern Minister Lisa Moore, and Minister Emerita Reverend Catherine Harris. Clara Kelly, Tad Koryev, Emily Jaworski Koryev, Deborah Hammond, and Kitty Collar provided music. As well as we have two fabulous tuck ushers with us today, Don Price and Deborah Mensch, who do so much of that behind the scenes work that gets us to the kind of services we can have. But most important, of course, is that I'm joined by you today. This fellowship and all the people who join us are the reason we do any of it. You are the reminder of what it means to be community. So as I say the welcome words today, I want to invite you to shift into gallery mode if you haven't already done so, and spend some time to scroll through the screens so you can experience the lovely diversity of this congregation. Because without you, there would be none of us. You are all welcome here today. In all the beauty of languages, cultures, skin tones, shapes, and sizes that come together in your uniqueness, you are welcome here. In all the ways that you experience and express gender, you are welcome here. In all the language, in the beauty of languages, cultures, skin tones, shapes, and sizes, you are welcome here. In the beauty that is who you love and how you love, you are welcome here. In all the ways you make your living and all the places you are from, you are welcome here. Christian, pagan, humanist, Jew, Buddhist, mystic, Muslim, Unitarian Universalist, whatever it is that grounds you in your spiritual life, with all of these traditions, you are welcome here. No matter how long you are away, nor how soon until you return, you are welcome here. Whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears, you are welcome here. You're invited to join us with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands. We welcome you all today. I do have a few announcements this morning. You will have three choices for breakout rooms today. There will be the regular breakout room, which is just like our coffee hour chat, only in little boxes. Or you can join Reverend Catherine and Paul Brindison for a discussion of the service, where you will be able to share about the meaning of home in your life or how you can still share of yourselves during this most unusual of holiday seasons. The third breakout room option will be to join the ongoing conversation about our social justice initiatives. The congregation will be affirming these initiatives at a meeting following the service on Sunday, December 6th. So that's 2 weeks from now. And we're inviting people into conversation this week and next week and into email conversation, whatever we need to have these affirmations well known before we talk about them at the congregational meeting. There's a link to the most current version of these initiatives, and that will be going into the chat right now. And as always, our spiritual formation for children and youth continues online each Sunday. See the chat for a link with all of those details. Then on Thursday, December 10th at 7 p.m., all are invited to a holiday service of healing. We call this service When Hope is Hard to Find. It's a contemplative service designed especially for those of you who find the holiday season challenging for whatever reason. And you can join in on the same Zoom link that we use for our Sunday services. If you are new here, we're very glad you found us and hope that in this virtual community you can still experience the warmth and the love of this congregation. Each Sunday is different here, so please do come back a few times to really get to know us. And if you want to get better connected, look at the chat window and you'll see a link to our first time visitors page and an email address for our office manager, Carol Pranschke. Be sure to check out our fellowship calendar and the BVUUF Connections weekly for all the opportunities we have to stay connected beyond Sunday morning. And if any of you are new and just want to quickly say hello in the chat, just tell us your name and where you live. We'd really love to know who is among us. And everyone is invited to stay for virtual coffee or join one of the other offerings that I spoke about following this service. And now we'll do our chalice lighting. If you have a chalice at home, you can light it with me as I light our fellowship chalice. So we know where all our chalices are. Please write in the chat, chalice lit in, and then the name of your town. You can say the words along with me. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action. And now I'm going to sing our bowl a second time, inviting you to draw deeper into the present moment and to this beloved community. And we'll follow this singing of the bowl with a period of silence to truly gather ourselves together.
As we gather, as Thanksgiving Day approaches, a Thanksgiving like no other in our lifetimes. The loss is evident in our quiet public squares, spacious airports, and highways, and empty chairs at the table. We gather remembering, too, that what many call the Thanksgiving holiday has a history of violence and genocide of Native Americans, too horrific for words, and that we live on the unceded lands of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho people. Like so much in our lives today, the swell of emotions is complex and contradictory. We are invited into gratitude as we recognize all that has been lost. To start our service today, I offer you these words by Joy Harjo. Perhaps the world ends here. The world begins and ends at a kitchen table. No matter what, we must eat to live. The gifts of earth are brought and prepared, set on the table. So it has been since creation, and it will go on. We chase chickens or dogs away from it. Babies teeth at the corners, they scrape their knees under it. It is here that children are given instructions on what it means to be human. We make men at it, we make women. At this table, we gossip, recall enemies and the ghosts of lovers. Our dreams drink coffee with us as they put their arms around our children. They laugh with us at our poor falling down selves, and as we put ourselves back together once again at the table. This table has been a house in the rain, an umbrella in the sun. Wars have begun and ended at this table. It is a place to hide in the shadow of terror, a place to celebrate the terrible victory. We have given birth on this table and have prepared our parents for burial here. Perhaps the world will end at the kitchen table while we are laughing and crying, eating the last sweet bite. Let us join together today, setting our hearts in a holy place as we embrace the complexities of life.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our hearts stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith. Then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
What a beautiful expression, when our heart is in a holy place. In this bread service, I want to talk about bread and healing. My mother's parents immigrated from Norway to Chicago shortly before my mom was born in 1919. She learned English when she went to school, but she learned how to bake bread from her mother. Heavy, thick Norwegian, Swedish, German bread. But she also experienced the Great Depression of the 1930s and told us about standing in food lines and in soup kitchens and going to community agencies to get food. In the mid-1940s, she moved with my father, a first-generation Swedish American, with me and two brothers, all under the age of 5, to northern Minnesota, where my dad started a ministry career, pastoring 2 small Scandinavian churches with farmers with few resources. So they shared with my parents chickens, eggs, milk, cream, butter, fish they caught, venison they shot, and produce they grew. And my mother in return baked bread, and she shared it with the farmers and people in town that needed help. I grew up in a small, crowded home in northern Minnesota with the smell of freshly baked bread permeating our home. Now, Donna yesterday baked some Swedish limpa, and we had freshly baked breads permeating our home yesterday. And by the way, the recipe for this bread can be found in this coming Tuesday, Staying Connected, that Janet Meyer has been putting together. Fast forward over 60 years to 2009. Donna and I had been married and our children were already raised and married and gone from home. And I received a call from my younger sister in Minnesota that my mother had passed, something we were expecting. And I called our son with the news and asked him, Tim, what's the first memory that comes to your mind about grandmother? And immediately said, visiting grandma and walking into her home with freshly baked bread. And I called our daughter in California and asked her the same question. And again, immediately she said, visiting grandmother, walking into her home with the smell of freshly baked bread. It was an amazing answer from my 2 children. The baking and sharing of bread were a big part of my mother's identity, but it was not just bread she shared. While I never recognized it as such, she had a spiritual practice of baking and sharing bread, but not just bread. She was always preparing and giving away food. Whenever she saw someone in need, she would bring them bread or some kind of food. Over the years, as Donna and I observed and knew my mother's heart of service and sharing, we greatly admired it. In a way, we're envious that we had only minimally followed her practice. So after she passed, we committed to adopt her spiritual practice of sharing food as a way to not only honor her, but as a process for us to heal our loss. But rather than bake bread, not everybody can bake bread like my mother and give it away. Our approach was to give our time and our resources to an agency in this area that was giving bread and food and support to people in need, namely Sister Carmen. Since COVID-19 started, Sister Carmen has distributed over 1 million pounds of food and household items and over $600,000 in rent, mortgage, and utility assistance. With the pandemic, there are many in need, and fortunately, many agencies are there to provide assistance. However, I learned this past Friday that since the pandemic started, the volunteers at Sister Carmen had dropped from around 130 to around 35. The need is great. As we enter into this wonderful holiday season and also frightful season with the pandemic, as a spiritual practice of sharing and service and thanksgiving and gratitude, may we give food and bread and our resources and our time and find healing. May it be so.
Thank you so much, Paul. That was such a beautiful story of your family and the healing that's woven, literally needed, let's say, needed into the bread that you share, and how you've transformed that to meet your life. I really appreciate you sharing that. So this is far from a normal year, but the sentiments of Thanksgiving still ring in our ears. So now we invite you to enjoy Clara Kelly's rendition of Mary Chapin Carpenter's Thanksgiving song, which was written and recorded in 2008. So much has changed in the 12 short years since it was first recorded, including binary language and a nostalgic, if not ironic for this year, message of how we travel from near and far to be together. I know that's a loss for a lot of us, not being able to travel and be with our loved ones. But still, the invitation in this song to be grateful, no matter what our lives provide us, is timeless. Enjoy.
Grateful for each hand we hold, gathered round this table. From far and near we travel home, blessed that we are able. Grateful for this sheltered place, with light in every window, saying welcome, welcome, share this feast, come in away from sorrow. Father, mother, daughter, son, neighbor, friend, and friendless, all together, everyone, in the gift of loving kindness. Grateful for what's understood,
At Thanksgiving, many of us are thinking of home, whether it is our home of origin, of adulthood, or of our chosen home. Our homes are important to us. This morning, we are joining other UU congregations across our nation in our annual tradition of guest at your table boxes. This year, we will be celebrating the meaning of home around the world. What do you think of as your best home experience? What do you feel and think of when you think of this best home? Do you have memories of food cooking, as Paul described? Maybe bread or turkey or soups? Do you think of your bedroom or a place you felt safe? Do you think of a favorite chair? Who are the people in your thoughts of home? Do you have or did you have a pet you loved? Do you remember any sounds or colors in your best home? Every person in the world wants and deserves a home just as we do. Let me tell you about 4 people who work to help people stay in their homes or create new homes. These 4 people work for agencies our Unitarian Universalist Service Committee supports with your donations. This is Suji Karamudan. He is a Rohingya from what many of us remember as Burma, now Myanmar. He was jailed, beaten, and then driven from his home and family at age 17 because he had the temerity to ask to be educated. He wandered homeless from country to country until he arrived in Malaysia, where he found other Rohingya. And with the other Rohingya, he founded a nonprofit community called Elom Empowerment, dedicated to supporting other Rohingya who had to flee violence and oppression in Burma. Elom offers education, women and youth empowerment, community engagement, and livelihood assistance. UUSC supports the work of Elom Empowerment with your donations. This is Chief Shirel Parfait Dardar. She lives with her community on the southern coast of Louisiana. The rising salt water of the ocean washes over her tribe's small families, farms, their hunting areas, and the graves of their ancestors. Frequent hurricanes damage their homes and farms. The oil and gas industries, canals, and pollution damage their land. The governments of Louisiana and our nation have ignored their plight. She has joined Alaska Natives to submit a formal complaint to the UN about the US government's failure to adequately address the climate crisis devastating their homes. UUSC supports the work of these tribes with your donations. Mark Stagey works with other Marshall Islanders in his research on climate change that is threatening his people's homes with rising sea levels. Mark works with the Marshall Island Conservation Society. As a scientist, he works with his peers to build models to predict future flooding. As a Marshall Island native, he interviews elders about past flooding events and natural ocean dynamics. He shares both his scientific knowledge and his cultural knowledge with his community, so his community has the adaptation tools they need to stay in their homes as long as possible. He also shares both the cultural and scientific knowledge so they can decide for themselves the level of flood risk they are comfortable with. UUSC supports the work of the Marshall Islands Conservation Society and Mark's work with your donations. Adela Ramirez is a Mayan human rights activist from Guatemala. She has a deep understanding of the violence, poverty, hunger, and lack of education and vocational opportunity that drives indigenous Guatemalans from their homes to try to reach America. But we know that both Mexico and the US deports these desperate people from Guatemala back home. Adela works with the Association Pop Noj. With other staff members, Adela accompanies families through the process of return and reintegration in Guatemala after deportation. The association provides mental health services, educational support, and vocational training to help them be at home again in Guatemala. UUSC supports the work of Adela and the association with your donations. In other years, we give these guest at your table boxes for you to give a quarter or a dime or a dollar at each of your evening meals as a way of inviting Suja, Chief Sherelle, Mark, and Adela into your homes and to support their work to provide their communities with safe, sufficient homes. This year, you can put your change in dollars at each dinner just in a bowl at your eating place and then collect it around December 13th and write a check to UUSC with GAYT on the memo line. That stands for guest at your table boxes. And then after December 13th, mail it to our BVUUF office. And these instructions will, I believe are in today's connections. Or you can contribute to the UU Service Committee right now in our offering. We will be giving our whole plate to UUSC today. Each week, we remind ourselves of the abundance of our lives and this community by sharing our plate with organizations like UUSC that share our values. You may also use this time of offering to think about who will you make time with to share with this season. for the work of this fellowship, bringing love and reason, justice and compassion to this world. And to the UU Service Committee, we dedicate these offerings. Thank you for your generosity.
And now we sing.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
And now we.
And now I invite us to join in our time of community connection, our time of sacred sharing with one another, rejoicing together in the beautiful moments of life and comforting one another with the healing powers of community. If you have a joy or a concern you'd like to share, please raise your hand using the participants button in the participants window. And then Tech Usher, I believe it will be Deborah, will unmute you. Or you may see a pop-up window asking you to unmute yourself. If you prefer, you may share your joy or concern in the chat window by sending a chat to everyone, and then Deborah will read it out loud for us. And when you do share, whether it's by voice or by chat, please tell us your name and where you live, and then briefly let us know what's in your heart today. And then I will place a stone in our sacred waters on your behalf. Beloveds, today the words of Adrienne Rich echo in my soul. She writes, "My heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been destroyed. I have to cast my lot with those who age after age, perversely and with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world. Beloveds, I cast my lots with you. Let us reconstitute the world together at the proverbial table, sharing and telling stories so that what has been lost can be named honestly and true healing can begin. Beloveds, let our connections and our restitutions grow well beyond what we ever thought was possible. Let us take our lead from those who are building right relationships across the world, and even right here in Boulder County, where those right relationships are being rebuilt with the Arapaho nations and the white residents of their land. Let us join with those who are bridging the educational gap between their Latinx children and white children. Let us side with those who, with strength and perseverance, are demanding dignity and respect for their Black, brown, and Indigenous bodies, so often targeted and violated. And in the midst of this, in the midst of tending to all that has been lost and reconstituting, finding new ways to build those connections, may we remember to also comfort and support one another as the personal challenges of our lives do not cease even in the midst of greater challenges. Sometimes they even get worse and harder. Let us also recognize the ebb and flow of our own capacities with grace and gratitude, and be grateful for all the ways that we are present to both the joy and the pain of the world. Amongst us, let us reach out to those who are in need of caring, those who are concerned with loved ones who have COVID, those who are healing themselves, those who have moved to be closer to people they love and to care for them. Let us offer our love and gratitude, our love and our support for those struggling economically right now, for those struggling with the isolation that these times bring, for those without a home in these times when home, in this season when home is so central to this nation's identity. And yes, in these complex times, let us also be grateful for the bounty and the beauty of the earth, for all the milestones of our own lives, the birthdays and the anniversaries, and for each breath we take, and for each other. May this be our promise and our prayer. If this were another year, we'd be gathering around our table now, set in the sanctuary, a table prepared by our children with tablecloths, candlesticks, and chalices that they find underneath their chairs. Do you have memories, visions of that in your mind? And many of us would gather and share bread from our family traditions. They're such beautiful memories for me. And this year, of course, we're doing it differently, as we've done many times now. Instead, we've gathered photos and videos. And Linda Thornton edited them together for us. So I'm so grateful to Linda's gifts that she's bringing. So let this video remind us of the bounty of our lives, even when we cannot be together in that same physical space.
In these days full of fear, when the future's so unclear, when our best, even our best, may not suffice, we take a breath and start again. We reach for hope, we face the pain, and we give thanks, we offer thanks in these hard times. We give thanks in hard times for the hope that we find in the faces of the ones who struggle on. Every time they take a stand, they bring healing to the land, and we give thanks, we offer thanks in these hard times. In these days full of rage, full of violence uncontained, when we feel that there's no way to ease our minds, we take a breath and start anew. We reach for peace in all we do, and we give thanks, we offer thanks in these hard times. We give thanks in hard times for the peace that we find in the silence that we hold within our hearts. Every time we seek that guide, there is healing deep inside, and we give thanks, we offer thanks in these hard times. In these days full of hate, when the cruelty seems too great, when we fear all we can do is be resigned, we take a breath and start once more. We live so love will be restored, and we give thanks, we offer thanks in these hard times. We give thanks thanks in hard times for the love that we find in the daily acts of kindness all around. Every time our caring shows, we bring healing as we go, and we give thanks, we offer thanks in these hard times. We give thanks, we offer thanks in these hard times.
It's time, beloveds, to extinguish our chalice, but not the warmth of love, the light of truth, nor the energy of action. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. Let us go forth with the words of my colleague, the Reverend Darcy Rourke. Each of us ministers to a weary world. There is too much hardship in this world to not find joy every day. There's too much injustice in this world to not right the balance every day. There is too much pain in this world to not heal every day. Each of us ministers to a weary world. Let us go forth together and do that which calls us to make this world more loving, more compassionate, and more filled with the grace of divine presence every day. May it be so. And may, however you are having this Thanksgiving holiday, be filled with moments of joy and plenty of gratitude. Blessed be.